Yes, all recordings on. Let's come up to tiptoes and heels. So just finding our feet as we gently rock forward and back. Feeling that gentle rock. And as you start to really tune into what the body's doing, away from the thoughts and what's going on in your head, and really start to feel the feet roll across the floor from front to back and back to front. Tuning into the rhythm of it now. And the body knows this, it's familiar with it. So quite quickly, we can really feel the feet. And once we start to get that little ache, little signal, we'll just do a couple more, just strengthening. Noticing as we do this, the arches in the feet. So coming back to what we did last week with the core, just feeling those arches, working away there. They're also being strengthened. And then we'll just bring it to stillness and feel the feet spread. And already that's creating a really nice feeling in the body. Let's start with the hands. So you can do, remember, the light touch. Seeing how sensitive you are. You might just want to outline the hands. You know, sometimes when we're feeling sensitive, we don't want to go in with brute force. But if you can't feel anything, you might need to waken things up a little bit more. If you've been too much in your head and you really need to come back to the body, that's another way. Nice strong massage, pressing the center, squeezing, pinching the fingertips. All of these things, stretch and squeeze, so that when we bring the hands by the sides, they're really alive in your awareness. So take a breath. And as you breathe out, feel the hands, feel the feet. Allow the jaw to relax if it's going there anyway. And then we'll just give it a bit more attention. So we'll do this one that we did last week, where we're putting the thumb on the chin, the finger on the top of the mouth. The hand is behind the head so that we can push. 1, 2, 3, both the upper and the lower, and release. And again, push for 3 seconds and release. And release. And just notice that it's not as strong as the other ones, but it's doing the top lip part of this, which is important. And then we can strengthen it a little bit by doing something like this. So we're going to pull up and stretch the jaw itself. 1, 2, 3. And to finish up with a little tap or a little stroke. So if if your mind has been really loud this week, if you've been finding your thoughts a bit intrusive, it's mouth work that you need to be doing more of. Okay, this is the bit that dials down that loudness. And then we'll just bring that to stillness. And again, feet and hands and face. Take a breath. Just noticing them. And then we can begin. Let's bring the hands into position. We're reaching up with the spine. We're opening out the spine as we breathe in. Feel that rootedness through the legs. And then out, breath forward bend. Tucking the chin in. In breath, we're looking up, flattening the back. As you come down, breastbone first, and then let go of the head, relax the jaw. And if you need to, feel your feet, hands, and face again. Taking a step back, coming into our dragon pose. So we're using the hands to push the floor away from us so that we can really lean forward. And as we go through Sasaltin, I'm just going to recap last week's session a little bit with you. So as you leave the leg behind, that front leg is going to take more and more of your weight. And if you want to come up, we need to activate the foot, so big toe and little toe. You're quite close, so if you're not very good at pushing the big toe and the little toe into the ground, you can use your fingers there to remind it. And then you come up, pick up your marble, anchor down through the core and reach up with the hands. And then bring the hands back. And this front foot is going to come back, but not before we've had another extra little stretch here. Now, as we come into this one, of course, this is a big core, isn't it? We're going to be looking at what I call the rose arch, which is where the hands are, the arch that's formed by pushing through both hands. And you can feel that they kind of meet in the middle of the chest. Tuck the toes under, and now engage the golden arch, which is underneath. So you've got the inner thighs, the knees lifting, the core engaging, picking up your marble, taking a breath. And so both arches are supporting the whole core body. This is why this is such a good exercise. Gets the heart rate up as well. And when that's happened, we're going to roll down. Rolling down and palm upon palm, just placing the head and resting that upper body. So remember that upper body has had to work really hard now to put that breastbone down and then start your bottom roll. And so we're getting into a nice steady rhythm. It's going to be easy for the thoughts to come in, so just keep your attention. That's why it's really good to have a song or a rhyme or something, because your mind will just stick with that a little bit easier. And of course, here we're waiting for something to change. It can just be a deeper breath or a sigh. And just bringing that to stillness when it happens, just noticing that discharge, that sense of all attention just draining away. And then we'll bring the hands underneath the shoulders, tuck the elbows in. Now, before we come up, let's pick up our marble. Okay, you can slightly engage the inner thighs with this, so you can feel that anchoring down there. And then as you push up, breathe in and lengthen. You're lengthening from that anchor. I'm going to push through, and of course the core has to engage, but the rose arch is the one, the arm arch is the one that's working here. And if we sit back, I'm going to open out all the joints, wrist, elbows, shoulders, right up into the upper back. So if the diaphragm's been tight, you've got the opportunity here as well for a little rock. Just stretch and rock at the same time. And when we stretch and rock it, it does it a lot faster. So might be only 10 seconds or so before you get a little response, and then you're going to sit back and just enjoy the breath and the stretch. And we're going to come up onto hands and knees. And we're going to use these hands, so we're pulling. And if you feel the pull here, look, there's that rose arch at the front, you can feel it. This is where the core is activated in infanthood when babies are doing this movement. When you come to C shape and you push with the hands and the knees, you can feel the marble lift. So we're pulling, there's the rose arch, pushing. You've still got a bit of the rose arch, but it's mainly the golden arch beneath. Pull and push. And these lines of connection are being made and remade every time we do them. So if your core has been gone for a while, or you've forgotten about it, this is going to really help. So after a few of those, we're going to come into the air shape. So we're pulling slightly with the hands, tuck the toes under, lift up and back into your downward dog position. And here again, you've got both sides of the arch working. So you've got the arms obviously are pushing. And what we're going to do is going to join this arch in the class later. We're going to join it down to the belly button. You might already feel it. Now, even though the legs are stretching, it's the back of the legs that are stretching. The front of the legs are still lifting slightly, the kneecaps. And as you breathe out, Pull in the core, and you can feel the back of the body's getting a massive stretch here, whereas the front is active. And do remember that if you've got a bit of a stiff back, that you can do a bit of a little S to C rock here, just to loosen that off before you relax again. And as you get, as the strength goes, notice, like, can you balance out the front and the back? So if you're feeling it all in the front, it's because you're not pushing backwards enough and allowing the golden arch to take some of the weight. You want it even from front to back. Right, so then the same leg that went back is now going to come through. Coming into our dragon pose again. Feeling like we're leaving that leg behind, really opening out that groin. Push through the feet. Sorry, that front foot, not both feet, front foot. Feel that half arch there, supporting you. Pick up your marble, reaching up. Lengthening the spine. And then bring the hands back down and lean in. Push the floor away from you a little bit more. That back leg now is going to come forward. You need your core to shift it all the way forward. Let the head go. Grab hold of the elbows, breathe out so you've got a nice anchor there. And you'll notice that if you breathe out and anchor down, you can kind of dangle a bit better. And once you've got a good dangle, you can rock. And then breathing in, we're going to lift up the breastbone. And as we breathe out, we're going to come down, breastbone first, and let the head go. And then gently uncurling. Finding your feet. And as you breathe in, again, anchor down through the feet. Breathe in, look up and back. Lengthen the spine. As much space as possible in that chest, and then bring the palms together. Let's draw this line down the center of the body. Now the core runs through the center of the body. So what core work is naturally centering. So you might feel it a bit easier this week than normal. So feet are either side of the line, hands are on the line, jaw is relaxing towards the line. Take a breath. And let all the thoughts and everything that's going on in your life and in your head, just park it at the door and bring your awareness to this line. Just notice it there. And if it's been a bit of a rough time recently, bring in feet, hands and face as well. So you're feeling feet, hands and face and the line simultaneously. Lovely. And just to add to that, let's do a bit of grounding. Because if we have been in a bit of a heightened situation, then we need a bit of grounding. So we've got the weight coming through the arms. I'm literally going as if I'm going to sit down, and then I'm leaning on my knees. And I can feel the push through the lower leg into the feet, up through the arms into the neck. There's my pyramid. Take a breath in. And as you rotate, think, look, I'm rotating through the center line. Looking over one shoulder, back to the middle, over to the other side, back to the middle, again. And somebody told me the other day that let's do it one more time. If we do it 3 times, we activate and open out our hearts a little bit more. So you might feel that sort of heart area a little bit less constrained after this. Lovely. We come back to the center and just feel the feet, the hands and the face, and we're sort of ready to start now. So we've got things going. So just want to recap quickly the golden arch. I think most of you have done this with me before, but we're still good. So big toes down, feel the arch lift. Little toes are the thing that's going to stop you from wobbling side to side when you're balancing. as we found out last week, we're going to pick up our kneecaps. That is going to engage the inner thigh. When we get there, we are finding our marble, which is the hardest bit, and pulling it up into the belly button. And that creates an arch with a little sort of spike or half the center line here. Okay? Now, when we bend our knees, it's still there. Okay, so just find it again, because it's slightly harder with the knees bent, because we're going to bring in the rose arch now, as I've named it the rose arch, because one's golden, the other one might as well have a colour. So the arms, when they're reaching, so I want you to imagine that you've got your hands around a trapeze, okay, and you're kind of dangling, but you're going to have to pull yourself up onto that trapeze, okay, so there's a slight sort of dangle pull thing going on here. And you start to feel this activation coming on the inner arm into the chest. Okay, the inner arm into the chest. And you might feel that with ease. Now, in order to create then the arch, the spike that comes down to the belly button, we're going to take the weight over to one side and go as if we're going to lift our leg. Now, to do that, we're going to have to really reach to be balanced. And you might feel, we're going to do various exercises, so don't worry if you don't feel it first time, okay? So both sides, reaching, feel that half arch that's supporting you, of course the foot and the big toe and the little toe working hard, and reach. Now the foot doesn't have to come all the way off if you don't want it to. And relax. Now, when you relax, that's when you're going to feel like, oh gosh, yeah, I really was working that rose arch. Okay, so notice that. That's the start of the connection that we're trying to make. Okay, so now we're not going to lift both feet off the ground, but we are going to come on to sort of more of a tiptoe situation here, just to make it that bit harder. So we've got both arms up. We're holding on for dear life here, right? Because we're like swinging really high up on a trapeze. And so we're holding, we're reaching, we're engaging the core. We've got to lift our legs. You want to lift the legs onto the trapeze. Now notice now that this front of the body here is starting to really need to work, okay? And then release. And so we've got that center line as you come down, really active all the way down. I can feel it even in my throat here. Now that might feel a little bit tricky to do. So there are things that you can practice with. Now, against the wall is usually the easiest, and this is how I teach it in a classroom, would be, where we come up against the wall, we're quite far away, arm length away, and we're pulling, so we're activating that reflex in the S shape, pulling, looking up, pushing, looking down. But what we're doing here is also just noticing what you can feel. Now, if you don't have a wall handy, you could do the back of the chair, or you could do, something with a bit of height, pull and push. And of course, you can also do it on the floor, but it's much, much harder. But wherever you are, when you've done a few of those pulls and pushes, and you're going, yeah, I can feel that rose arch, and perhaps it kind of joining into the belly button, maybe not yet, we'll be working on this all the session. You can start to do wall press ups, right? So anybody with any amount of strength can do these. You bring yourself down, and when you come down here near the wall, feel that rose arch, feel the golden arch supporting you, and try and connect the dots from the top to the bottom via the belly button, and then release. Okay, so you're putting yourself, when you're working hard, you can feel the rose arch, you can feel the golden arch, you're picking up your knees, your core, and you're trying to join the dots in that center line. Okay, one more. Okay, so with this, this center line here, we are literally activating it through the use of these two arches. So the foot and the arms, you know, that we explored here. And so this reflex first gets sort of, the first time it gets activated is on the floor when the baby's put on their front. So let's come down to the floor and let's do this reflex move. So the baby's been laid on their front. They've got their hands on the ground. They're getting a little bit of core control. They can at least lift the head off, but not much. And they start doing this funny move where they sort of tuck the toes under and start to rock backwards and forwards. And so this is the start of it. This is the reflex that starts it off. And so they're using both hands and feet. And you can be using both hands and feet. And then you'll find, oh, something starts to get tired. So maybe it's your hands. And then we can just use the feet. This is quite telling. Whichever one gets tired first is also showing you where your weakest arch is. Once the feet get tired here, relax the feet and do only the hands. And then you can do the two together. And then after a while, you might just do the feet on their own. And then swapping when that gets tiring to the hands. And so you're going to cycle through the two together. And like this, you're just working your way through. Now, when you feel tired, when it becomes too much, then you're going to relax. You're just going to bring the hands around just like you would normally and just relax. And let the system process. And again, go to feet, hands, and face if you need it. And then when you feel ready, we'll come up to the next phase of this. So the next phase of this is usually on the floor. And the baby's usually cross-legged, so we might as well do it that way. So we've got the hands here on the ground. And, you know, they're doing this rocking. Well, we're going to do it much slower because we want to really feel these lines of connection. So as you pull, again, like we did against the wall, feel the arms, the inner arm here, the arch, and try and connect it to the belly button. And then push, pick up your marble, connect that to the belly button. Pull. And push. And pull. And push. And so we're going from S to C. Hopefully, you know, the pelvis is moving. The spine is actually moving. And when you're done and you come to neutral, what you'll notice is this lift, this natural lift here at the front already. The spine is straight. We've got a more natural lift. Because one of the things that happen, we need to look at this next, when the Moro is activated, is that that space that the diaphragm leaves makes us curl over, and so the upper core can't really function. This line of connection kind of gets a bit lost. So we don't feel this natural lift. So here we've got this natural lift, and you know, hopefully the line is going all the way through. We'll be doing more for that, so don't worry if it's just yet. But first we need to kind of undo something. Okay, so if you have got a bit of Moro, let's rock while I talk about this. For some people, when we're doing upper body strength, you hold the breath. And you sometimes see it in like big weightlifters, you know, they're holding their breath, especially if they're, you know, at their limit. And what's happening there is that there's a compensation going. So down the bottom, last week we talked about how the back compensates, how the psoas compensates, and even the hamstrings compensate. But for the upper body, it's the diaphragm and shoulders, the bracing that will compensate, right? So we need to make sure that we are not trying to use our diaphragm to get the strength, okay? Because the diaphragm really has nothing to do with it. So we're going to do a little test here once we've done this. So we're just rocking until we feel that response. And then when it's happened, we're just going to bring the hands to the diaphragm here. Now, for most of us, we've been doing this long enough that this is enough, but obviously if you've had a really difficult week, you might do more, like the pressure here, the breathing in, hold the breath and pushing back. That's 3 breaths. Breathe in, hold your breath, push back. And again. And with any luck, that is definitely going to start to relax that diaphragm. And so bring your hands here and feel the diaphragm working. Just natural breath. You don't have to do any specific breath. Just feeling that, yep, when I breathe in, there's a bit of movement there. When I breathe out, there's a bit of movement there. Okay, now, I want you to lean slightly over into a C shape and just check, am I still breathing? Okay, now imagine that you've got to get yourself off the floor without using your hands, right? So you're going to pick up your marble, basically, and try and go, oh, if I was going to try and just lift myself up here, now notice, are you still breathing? Is that diaphragm still moving? Some of us will find that it's not, okay? And what we need to practice this, because we need to teach the body to differentiate between lifting the core and lifting the diaphragm. Okay, and that's why sometimes, anything that's hard work physically becomes heightening and kicks us into fight or flight response, because actually the diaphragm is just going, oh, and the vagus nerve is switching itself off. So we're not at all relaxed while we exercise and things. All right, so bear that in mind. Let's come back to, we were doing boats last week. So let's come up to here. We're going to use the arms in this in a minute. Okay, so just with the hands behind your knees for a start. And we're going to activate the first arch here, pick up the marble. There we go. And maybe bring the other one up and feel that there. Now, if we let go and reach with our arms, notice how it makes it easier to pull yourself forward from falling backwards. Okay, so they can see that that golden arch is also really helping you to strengthen what you're doing. So if you can reach your toes, then hook the finger around. If you can't, then just grab hold of wherever you can reach. Okay, we're going to try and do it with the arms in situ. Let's just do one first, okay? So you can feel this arch here and this one. It's not easily felt with just one side, but there we go. And then the other. Now, if we want 2, we really have got to work. It's a big step up, unfortunately, from one side within the other. And then if we open wide, here the psoas has to let go. The psoas is being stretched. So if you hold your core with your psoas, this is going to be difficult. So try to differentiate. It's all in the front of the body. Remember, when it feels like you're going to fall, engage at the front. Pull with the arms. Feel that engagement all the way down to the belly button. And when you come back up from that, again, feel how this is active, allowing the rest of the body to melt and relax. And of course, we can use that in any of our stretches. So if we come into just a plain old forward bend, as we found last week, the hinge is there where we breathe out and lift the marble. But if we pull slightly with the arms and engage the arch at the front, the rose arch at the top, sorry, you can feel that both are working together, and you want them both to be working evenly. Let the legs go, relax the back of your neck, relax your jaw. It also allows and helps the spine to remain in that neutral space and not fall into that C shape quite so much. So we'll skip the warm-up. Let's go straight into psoas stretching. So the legs nice and wide. A little bit harder to feel that inner thigh when the psoas is being stretched, but it is there. And you can feel the muscle, you know, this muscle getting stretched here. So that doesn't mean you can't pick up your marble though. And now if you pull slightly with the arms and engage that rose arch, you might begin to feel how it connects down through the breastbone, through the top part of the core, the place where when you do crunches it hurts the next day, all the way down to the belly button. So the two, the lifting of the marble and the rose arch and its spike both work. So we've all sort of had that, you know, moment after the gym where we've, you know, gone for the first time and done a whole load of crunches and sort of walked away and went, oh my God, you know, tomorrow I'm going to really ache. Now, when we're doing the inner core, this is the interesting thing about the inner core, is that it's designed to be switched on permanently. And therefore, you can exercise it a lot and it won't hurt. Okay, so you will know if you're compensating if you do this next exercise and it actually starts to ache. Okay, so there's a couple of things to do. So we're going to come onto the floor and we're going to do it this way. So we're reaching here. And this rose arch here really comes to its own here. Okay, but we're also got the feet on the floor. So we have the opportunity to lift the arch, to engage those inner thighs, to pick up the marble and to join the dots between the rose arch and the golden arch as we go down. And so when you feel like, oh, I'm going to lose it and plop down, engage your core more. And go slow as you possibly can. So you can feel every part of your core engaging. Reach. Oh, plopped a bit there. You can feel that. That's an excellent exercise to do. Now, if you're one of these people, oh, hello, isn't that this? Hi. If you've got, if you're not feeling this line down into the belly button from the top core, see, we're going to reach here. Okay, so we're doing this hard. So when we're doing like these sit-ups and we're not thinking about this archway, we're not really activating the whole core. Okay, so you see if you can feel it. And this is kind of the opposite to what we were doing last week, where we had the legs in the air. We were trying to lift the bottom off the ground. Yeah, and again, trying to activate this inner arch to support this lift. Which is why now, if we bring the arms up and the legs up, we imagine that we're trying to lift the bottom of the ground and reach our toes, we're going to feel that line all the way down the center of the body. And then release. Oh, I've been doing that all week and I'm really starting to feel like slight fatigue there, which is unusual. Okay, so now you see we've got that real connection now. And this is what we're after. Okay, we're after this connection. Now, this connection is also made when we do knee bend rock. So if you think about it, when we go into C-shape, we talked about this last week, you know, the head is down. We've got a slight version of this here, and then we go to S to C over and over again. And so, you know, you can have a little go here, why not? Just to see, well, can I actually feel it as I rock? Because if you can, then you know you've made a really good connection here. Well, it's not for too long, it's just a little bit of an experiment there. Wasn't in the plan, that one. It's quite nice. As soon as you start rocking, you're like, oh, do I have to stop? And then when you're done, you know, you'll see how, oh, look, the back of the body melts. But even as you breathe, the front of the body is still active. If we come to TikTok, again, that's another one that trains this really well. So toes come in, we can feel the whole of the front. Now the arch now is extending itself up into the breastbone. But remember, still make sure that you can breathe. And just a few of these again. And what this one's really good for is for those of us that tend to use our backs instead of our core, because it teaches the differentiation. The front of the core is engaged, the back is relaxing with each talk. And then when you bring it to stillness, after a few little goes, you can sort of feel that every time you breathe out, that core is engaged and the back of the body is softened. Tempting though it is to stay on the floor already. We're going to roll on to our front. And just experiment a little bit more. I want to come back to Cobra pose. It's a pose we do every week. And done well, we only need to do it once or twice. So when we're doing Cobra, we have got our marble lifted. When we bring our hands to the floor and we push, we create the rose arch. And as we look up, we're stretching out that line of connection right down to the belly button. You can feel the anchoring. If you engage and pick up your marble now, notice it helps you to feel like, oh, I could even go a little bit higher up. Down. A little rest. Come on to hands and knees. So these are all little exercises you can do if you want to strengthen this whole front body connection. We're on our hands and knees. Okay, so this is the plank pose again that we do every week, tucking the toes under, but now we're just going to feel it just briefly to make that line of connection through the arms, down the chest to the belly button, through the golden arch, up, pick your marble up to the belly button. So the whole of the front of the body feels really connected and strong. And of course you can test your rose arch by doing a drop down. I was going to say push up, but I don't think I can do that. Just relax your head for a moment if you need to. Who would have thought that we would be doing such a workout? It's one of those really somatic type workouts. So here, this is another one. When you're doing your cobra, perhaps you're doing a different sun salutation, tuck the toes under and see, can you lift up straight into your downward dog? And for that, you need that whole of the front of the body, both the arches. And you can go from one to the other with utter control because all those lines of connection are there. So just have a little experiment there. Next week, we'll be doing more of that, more of kind of like putting the two together and doing, some work, some, yoga poses and just seeing how it all feels with all the lines of connection. Have a nice resting child pose. So look at how this is in other yoga poses. So let's say we do a sideward bend. Let's do this one. So one leg out straight, one leg bent. We're going to lean over to the side and reach up with the arm. Now the golden arch is still here because you're leaning on this arm and you're reaching. Make the line of connection down and anchor down with the pickup of the marble. Feel that the legs get heavy. And suddenly we feel like, oh yeah, look, the front of the body feels super active whilst I stretch the side. And the psoas can let go. It's kind of getting the message almost a little bit easier to not pick itself up. Because often, the reason that the psoas gets active is because it's trying to compensate for lack of core. Just trying both sides. So there's the stretch, and then there's the push from the hand on the floor, the reach, the picking up of the marble. Ooh. Okay, so if you're getting a little bit tired, which wouldn't be surprising, so you have worked quite hard with this front of the body, then you can just do a straightforward twist. But if you want to sort of keep experimenting, there is an option here to do this twist, which I really like. So you've got one leg bent and one hand holding onto the foot. The leg and arms straight as possible, and the arms are reaching as you pick up your marble. You're kind of in a half boat. You can sort of feel the whole of the front of the body working out, even though it's across the body. Engage your core, though, as you rotate. And feel how the core really is the engine of movement. And another thing we're going to be looking at next week is how the core, forms this engine. The strength and vitality of the body is all down to the core. And that's what you see when you see like ballerinas or circus acts and you think, wow, they look strong. What you're looking at is that whole coordination that's coming from this really strong center. And just remember to lead both sides. So we often do this back bend here, where we're leaning back and opening the chest. And of course, this is only half of it. You might be able to do the full version today. So we're going to push through the hands and engage that rose arch. As we lift the bottom off the ground, even if it's just a fraction, you're going to start to engage the golden arch. And then in order to get the whole thing off the floor, you've got to make the lines of connection. Just feel how strong we feel when we work like this. And, feeling strong in your body does really translate to feeling strong in your mind. Not just because the reflex is, as I mentioned earlier, it's connecting the prefrontal cortex, that part of the mind that is motivated and willful and strong and determined and organized and all the things. But also because the body feels it. And remember, 80% of what our mind is thinking is down to how the body is feeling. And there's a whole load of research around that. So, it really pays sometimes to do this somatic work. So you can see I'm trying to go down here now. See, like maybe this time I won't plop because I'll be reaching a bit harder this time. I'll be working my way down. There we go. A little bit more control as I come to the floor. Just see the improvement. And it's always good. It's always satisfying, isn't it, when you can see the improvement. So we're coming to the finishing sequence now. So we're going to bring the soles of the feet. If you want to activate the rose arch and relax your shoulders. So again, shoulders often take the brunt for, a bit of a weaker upper core. So we're going to reach here, push through the feet. So we've got the golden arch engaged. We're pushing through the feet, get the rose arch and the golden arch engaged. And as we come again into our bridge pose, we can feel the line of connection all the way down to the belly button from both. And of course, at some point, if you want to rest your arms, by all means do. And if you want to come down, rocking head, rocking diaphragm, because, that's what your body is asking you, it needs it, then by all means, you can do both head and diaphragm. But what I will say is that if you want to bring your back down one vertebra at a time, it is the core and all of the core that manages that. So if you find it difficult to press, put one bone down and then the next and then the next, and practice it with the core engagement. And then we'll release and feel the weight of the arms there. Just give the shoulders an opportunity to relax for a moment. We haven't paid them much attention today. And we're going to go into our T shape. Now, again, if you're feeling tired, you don't have to do it this way. But we did this last week. It's really good. Now we're going to add the arms this time. So we're going to reach slightly with the arms. It's only slight, the legs up in the air. And we're going to try and control going over to one side as best we can. And to do that, we need to feel both the top and the bottom of the core working away. And when you get as far over as you can, just bring the foot on the knee. Bring the hand to the knee, rotate the head, and just be in your normal twist. But not forgetting that every time you breathe out, you've got the opportunity to engage the core. It forms that movement engine that allows you then the rest of the body to relax, and you can move and twist a bit more. Now up to you. You can just roll back up to the center, but if you want to work even harder, you could reach up with the legs straight. I'll tell you, at the beginning of last week, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So I've obviously had a bit of an improvement myself. So here we go, other side, legs up in the air. Reach with the arms so you can really control it. You know, see how it's all working together. It's only a slight reach, but it's enough. You've activated the network, the head rolls, the leg comes down in a nice controlled manner. When you've gone as far as you can go, bend the knee, place the foot on the knee, hand on the knee, and into your usual stretch. And then breathe out and engage the core. Leg will straighten, and again we'll lift up. If you want to, you can just roll back to the center. Nice and controlled. Ready to let the legs come to the ground. We're going to sit on the hands and come into our fish pose. Now, if you want to engage the core in the lower half of the body, there's a little trick here. You can lift the legs slightly off the ground, push with the elbows, that engages the rose quartz. You can leave the legs, relax them down, but pick up your marble with each out breath. See if you can keep it engaged in the in breath as well. And notice what a good arch you can make. And that you can perhaps stay a bit longer than normal, which is so beneficial for those happy hormones. So the longer you stay, the better you feel those happy hormones. So rolling the head in, releasing the hands out from underneath you, and just letting the body relax there for a moment as we have that wash of happy hormones travel down the spine through the body. And if you add to this the slight elongation of your out breath, so it's a normal breath in and just a smooth, longer breath out. You can almost feel that switch go on the vagus nerve. So it starts to turn itself on. It's 3 breaths minimum, so I'd say 4 or 5. Now, of course, if you have had a really stressful week, you should have done it, but you might still need to rock. Either rock the rib cage or rock side to side, and get those rocks in. We've only just sort of briefly done one, which is not really enough for stress levels. So you judge if you need to do anything else. And then whilst we prepare for the relaxation. So we're going to go with a similar theme to last week, where we were talking about how the core in a lot of traditional East Asian and Eastern traditions is called the energy center of the body, the hara. And of course, it's kind of easy, it's kind of makes sense when the work that we've done today, because we can feel how much the front of the body helps to make us strong, give us energy. So as you breathe in, just focus on where you can feel the epicenter. Now, it's not necessarily the belly button. Some people feel it more in the solar plexus. And just imagine that there is a sun there. It's no coincidence that this chakra's symbol is the sun. And the sun is a hot ball of molten lava, but it's also full of energy and light. And so as you breathe in, feel the breath come into this hot ball of light, and it shine that little bit brighter with each breath. And it's like you're stoking it. The sun is becoming a little bit bigger each time, glowing brighter, hotter. More light shining from it with each and every breath. Feel the power of that. And then allow some of it to start to spread. So you could imagine it like some of that molten lava beginning to spread down into the belly, warming the belly, warming the womb space, the hara space, the lower back, the whole of the pelvic bowl. You might see it as light spreading instead of lava. It might be light for you, melting through the darkness of the hips and down the thighs, front, back and sides, and the back of the knee, and the front of the knee, the calf, the shin, the ankles, the top of the foot, the sole of the foot, all the way to the tips of the toes. It feels as if this inner sun is shining, its bright light is spreading its heat. And as it does so, all the cells in the lower half of the body begin to feel alive and vital and energized. As if each one of them were tiny little suns turning themselves on like Christmas lights. And still, every breath that comes into the solar plexus, that sun is growing a little bit bigger, just a fraction. Just like our sun is growing a little bit bigger each time, each year. And we feel some of that heat and warmth and light spread up through the diaphragm to fill the chest, the upper backbones, the shoulder blades, the collarbones, right up to the shoulders. And that light heat melting any darkness in the shoulders, any tightness in the shoulders, and starting to flow down the upper arms, through the elbows, the lower arms, through the wrists, the palm of the hand and the back of the hand, and to fill each of the fingers. And again, as this light and warmth spreads, feel the energy, the power in that as each cell lights up. Vibration changes, it becomes stronger, warmer, more healthy. And so as you breathe into the sun center, Sending the warmth, the light, the energy, the heat, the molten lava through the whole of the body, down to the toes, down to the fingertips, up the spine, down the belly, through the chest, into the throat, and to feel it melt the top of the spine, so that the head feels loose and the jaw can relax forward. And the heat and warmth starts to spread through the jawbone, both the upper and the lower. Dangling the teeth and releasing the tongue. Relaxing the palate behind the nose, around the eyes, the brow. Top of the head, the back of the head, right to the crown. So we're full right up to the very top of this light, warm, powerful energy of the sun, the inner strength. So as you breathe in, you can feel that inner sun, and now as we breathe out, it's everywhere, every cell, right to the top of the head, tips of the fingers and to the toes, shining bright, full of our vitality and energy, our birthright. And some of us might want to connect this inner sun to source power energy, or the outer sun, or father energy as it's also called. It also shines from above and also radiates its heat and warmth into the body and energizes every cell. So we have an inner sun and an outer sun. It doubles, it multiplies 1,000-fold. Our cells shining brightly, full of energy. And as you breathe out, feeling the earth beneath, Mother Earth beneath, and her hold, and our ability to surrender and release into that lovely, nourishing hold. And so as we breathe in, we have this inner sun, and we feel the outer sun shining above and on us. And as we breathe out, we feel the earth, the Mother Earth, hold, release. We can surrender into that loving hold. Breathing in, we can imagine also that the sun is like our birthright love. The Father's love just shining all over us. And as we breathe out, we feel our Mother's love with the earth, Mother Earth beneath. And as always, just having a moment to see if we can feel both of them simultaneously. Both Mother Earth and Father Sun. Nourishing our body. And we ourselves with every breath. Stoking that inner sun, that inner strength. Just allowing yourself to drift off if that's what you need. Stay with the breath, stay with the imagery for as long as you need to. I'll just gently sign myself out until next week.